Greetings! Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson, the founder of N.E.A.R. With me is my alternate co-host, Carl Johnson.
Being alternate, hello there.
And welcome, studio audience.
Studio audience, yay!
Yay!
Glad to have you here with us.
We really do have them here.
Set up the applause light. Well, let me introduce my guest, who I'm very, very honored to have with us this evening.
It's about time.
Thank you, Thank you, Carl. It's a
Fran
pleasure
Ford.
and an honor.
Oh, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having us here.
Yes. Fran Ford and John Hardy. Now, Fran goes back with us many, many years. She is an original member of the Atlantic Paranormal Society with us.
I am.
Long before the TV show Ghost Hunters. And John, of course, you're a significant other. And you make a great couple, I must say, a very cute couple.
Thank you.
He's getting more significant all the time.
Yes. And John is I would say he's rather an expert at EVPs. Yeah. Very, very talented.
Thank you.
Recording and analyzing electronic voice phenomena. So we're going to talk about that too.
Yes.
But first, tell me a little bit about your own organization. Now that you are on your own, you have Echoes Paranormal and Price Paranormal.
We do. We have two groups. Price is our community exchange group. It's basically a place where people can go. We have the website where anybody can go and talk with other people on the site about investigations, cases, things they may not be comfortable bringing up with just anybody, and hopefully they share things with us. It's a little slow going, but I'm not very good at moderating either, so, it's taking a while to take off. But Echoes is our investigation group, and that's the group that goes out on cases and does investigations. So Price stands for Paranormal Researcher and Investigator Community Exchange, and Echoes Paranormal stands for East Coast Hauntings and Observation Education Society.
Wow,
So.
sounds great. Sounds
Thank
fantastic.
You. Thank you.
And I know you two work very well together.
We do, yes.
Of course, you manage most of the technical aspects of it.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that, what basically your function is.
I analyze a lot of EVPs. I handle the tech equipment and try to keep the recorder out of her hand.
Whenever possible.
I never was. It was never my
I'm
forte,
only joking. And I love analyzing EVPs. I'm a sound engineer, and I have been for over 20 years. And
fantastic.
I find EVPs very fascinating, and I also look into them beyond just hearing voices. I look into the aspects of their hertz, on the levels that they are on the charts, and all that.
Well, John, by EVP you mean a sound that is generated through electric impulse rather than sound waves through the air.
Correct. Yes.
Right, it's not generally heard audibly.
Right. Electronic voice phenomenon.
Now, what first interested you in this, in the whole paranormal aspect and in EVP work and, because of your background, what first crossed over to the paranormal side?
He met Fran.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm asking. Was that the catalyst?
No, that was just a boost.
Okay.
It started off like many at a young age, 1978, and a friend of ours who was older than us told us to put a recorder in a cemetery because he knew some college kids, and at the time I didn't know that there was a whole field about it or anything, and so we did that, and we obtained our first EVP. And then after that, a friend of mine told me his house was haunted, and I said, can I spend the night? Because I was getting more into it. And I was 13, and I started getting into it, which shouldn't be done nowadays.
Right, yeah.
And so I, with no equipment, sat up in his house on the second landing and listened upstairs, and I heard footsteps. And so I could hear downstairs and know it's not coming from there. And the following day, we went up there, and there was dust on the floor with no prints, because we would assume that somebody was sleeping up there, transient or something, but there was no one there. And I got into it pretty good after that. That kind of gets you going.
Yes, I guess it would. Of course, a lot of people start out by doing the thing when they're very young, leaving a tape recorder going on a certain grave in a cemetery.
Yes.
Because we obtained our first one by accident. Carl happened to be conducting some psychic experiments, this is back in the early 70s, and having an after discussion with friends, and he was recording it, played it back. And that's how we obtained our first EVP, totally by accident.
I was 2 years old at the time, I remember.
Not
my
quite.
first tape recorder.
Don't believe
I was
him.
a little old.
You must be real old. I know Keith's Old Faithful is still going.
Yeah, still going, still going.
That is
Amazing.
a little cassette tape recorder.
Amazing.
Yeah, knock on wood, it's still going.
Hey, you can't knock the technology. I mean,
Right.
when you have
if
something
you
that
have
works.
the basic equipment
right.
and it works,
That's
if it ain't
right.
broke, don't fix it, right?
Exactly.
And you don't need to spend a lot of money.
That's a good point. Good point we like to make. You
Yes.
don't need to, you hear that, audience? You don't need to break the bank on spending all this money on newfangled equipment. And you started out with the basics, right?
Yes, I did. My first recorder actually was a reel-to-reel, and then, of course, the big one like this that took the cassette.
Right.
And
Like Keith's.
Right.
Right.
Yes, I have the old Panasonic model, and
yeah, I found the cassettes were better.
yes, yeah, we do too. We do too. We stick with analog.
Yes.
But I remember Ed Warren used to go around with big reel-to-reel. Ed and
Yeah.
Lorraine Warren. Ed always did the recordings. He had the big reel-to-reel and would always have he had tons and tons of interviews. And unfortunately, they lost a lot of their interviews when they had a flood in the house, a major flood. But
Yeah. That's the problem with tape. You
Right.
know. It does. It is exposed.
it's and it's
a lot more
it
than
only
digital.
lasts so long. And
right.
Yes.
It's fragile and limited.
You still continue to listen some of the EVPs
oh yes,
from way back
definitely,
when.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, I certainly have some with you involved.
Yes. Something following me around apparently for the past 10 years.
Well, it does happen. It does happen. For instance, there's the time when we were up in a house in Maine, and you were talking about sleeping experiments, leaving the tape recorder going on all night, and then you decided you didn't want to do that because you didn't want, if something's,
Right. My husband
Going around
had
doing-
sleep apnea, and his doctor wanted him to leave the tape recorder going all night. I just so happened to have been reading a book on EVPs at the time, which was probably not such a good idea. So he wanted me to turn the tape on after he fell asleep. And
Right.
when I put the book down and went to shut the light off, I looked at the recorder and I said, if something's talking over me all night long, I'd rather not know.
right,
So needless to say that
right.
his
And when I
recording did
played
get
my
done.
recording back, I hear a voice mocking you saying, I do not want to know. And it obviously wasn't an echo because it didn't, paraphrased. It didn't quote you exactly, and it was a totally different voice. But
Actually, speaking of mocking, isn't that an interesting experience you've had, Fran, where you've actually it's manifested on the recording, on the audio recording. It's mocking you saying your phrases before you speak them.
Before I speak.
Yes,
them.
yes, we've
we
had that,
have, yeah, we have. I think we have a clip tonight,
Yes.
an example of that. But not only do they mock me, they like out and out diss you. It's like
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
think this
we
one
know who
calls
you
me an
are,
idiot.
yes.
It says it says the year, the date of the tombstone that I read 5 minutes after it says it. But it says the year, and then it says it calls me an idiot. So amazing stuff. It really is. You get your questions answered before time. Yeah, it's when you play it back. I mean, we've been out to a certain school in the Rhode Island area. I won't
right.
mention the name.
Exactly.
And to know that something is right there in the pitch black, right on top of your recorder at the time. It's just. And you play it back later on, you're like,
you think of it in retrospect,
It-
gee, how
I'm
close
always
was
fascinated.
I?
Always fascinated.
Yes. Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Right, right. And of course, as you know, we also had former TAPS member Rich Einig on
I
recent
watched
episode.
the show, yes.
Yes, and I'm sure you could relate to a lot of the experiences he talked about. For instance, in the Mordecai House, North Carolina, we're at.
Yes,
And
that was a lot of fun.
Yes, you had some experiences there. in
I
Mary
did. As
Willis's
a matter of
room.
fact, I was surprised to hear Rich mention the Phantom Cat.
Yes, the Phantom Cat.
That was a really amazing experience for me. I mean, I thought it was a member of the household that was there to eat mice, and I was in a room by myself, and the reason being I was by myself was I was going to be flipping over the tape in the camera, and it was due. I kept a timestamp on it, and I knew it was due to be flipped over, so I went off to a room, and I'm listening to everybody having fun on the investigation, and I'm sitting in the room, and the parking lot light kept flickering on and off, so I would get glimpses of the room, and I saw coming towards me. I could tell right away it was an animal, and by the way it walked, it was a cat. And as it's getting closer, I'm noticing there's some weird things about it. Okay, it's glowing, but is it the parking lot light? And no, and I'm looking for the glow of the eyes, and it wasn't there. And part of me said, you know, something's just not right with this. And the cat came up to me, and I was wearing a pair of black pants. And the cat came up and brushed against my leg and did the turnaround and brushed again. And part of me wanted to reach down and pet it.
Right.
And I said, no, I don't want to break the spell. But I don't know what I was feeling at the moment, what I was expecting to feel when it brushed my leg, cold or, you know, would it go through my leg? I didn't feel any pressure, I didn't feel anything, but I could see it actually hitting my leg. And
So
then
this
it
was a cat that its mice dating, you know, its mice eating days were over.
Its mice eating days
unless
were
they're
over.
phantom mice, you know, and
It's possible because it was very well fed. It was a very large cat. It was obviously well taken care of. And it was so real to me that as it was walking away, it faded, and I kind of expected it to. But later on that night when I went down where there was lights, I looked at my pants to actually see if there was fur left there because it felt, I mean, I didn't feel anything, but it just, I watched it hit my leg twice. So that was very interesting. It was a first for me.
Yes.
Phantom animals.
I still appreciate you driving all that way down to
Oh,
North
we
Carolina
had
and
fun, though.
back
We
again.
had a good time.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I was basically supposed to be just a support member, and I ended up, because of Rich's glitches, you know, with his footage, I ended up, Jay had said to me, why don't you just write something, just in case? And I did, and I ended up actually having to stand up and give a speech, give a lecture.
Which you did very, very well
Thank
at.
you.
I remember
Thank
it
you
very
very
well. I
much.
wish we had that on tape. So
Thank you
show
very
that.
much. It is still on the TAPS website, I believe.
I believe it is.
So yes, we have history. It goes back a long way.
Well, in just a moment, we're going to be joined by Sandra, and we've both been under the weather this week. You know, it's like the hacking.
Yes,
things that are
I'm
going around.
drawing from him. I have his cold now, just going around.
And John's not feeling too well either, and I feel a bit of scratchiness coming on too.
Oh, well, it's good
Let's
we're
all
doing the show
cough
now.
together then. Let's get it out of the way.
All right.
Tis the season.
Well, this is far too spooky for me, so I think I'm going to surrender the microphone to my sister-in-law anyway.
All right.
So I'll have
Don't go
dreams,
too
I'll
far,
have
Carl.
nightmares.
Thank you for co-hosting, Carl.
Thank you.
Alternate co-host. And now we have some more questions.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, we're talking about Brayton Cemetery. You had some experiences there as well.
I did, yes.
And I mentioned that because there were phantom animals reported there too. Did
Yes,
you experience that?
That's correct, but it wasn't like the phantom cat. I didn't see them. I more or less heard them, and you know, I had heard stories and had the same type of experience one night where whatever it was that was rustling in the weeds just kind of split,
Yes.
and one went one way and the other went the other way. It was the strangest thing.
Yes. Yeah.
To hear the noise, just it's in one place, and then all of a sudden it just goes.
Right. You experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Rich experienced it. Brian experienced it. So multiple witnesses
Yes.
experiencing the same thing.
And at one point I wandered off by myself, and I was new. It was one of the places that you all brought the newbies, and
Right.
I
remember
was
the,
new, and I had gone off to the old section of the cemetery by myself. And at one point I heard what sounded like a rock being rolled like a bowling ball, and it felt like it was going to hit my legs, so I did one of these, and I half expected to see a rock go through my legs, but it didn't. And that's when I said, I shouldn't be here by myself.
All right.
And I went and joined everybody else.
Well, good for you.
It was fun.
And we have Sandra with us now.
Welcome, Sandra.
The Sandra Johnson, co-founder of N.E.A.R and co-host.
Thank you. I do appreciate Carl filling in for the first half of the show.
You should have seen that scooter across the floor he just did across the studio floor.
Amazing gymnastics. Amazing.
Like the foxhole thing.
Yeah,
Still got
I
it.
should be able to keep from hacking at least for a few minutes, so I do appreciate that. Thank you, Carl. So, Fran and John, you guys, one thing I want to get to before we run out of time, the dangers of the paranormal.
Yes.
I know that you had wanted to bring that up at some point during the show, and just so we don't run out of time before you do. if
Thank you
can,
very much. It's vital. We got involved with friends of ours that we met through analyzing EVPs, Dan and Sandy Mahwini from Southern California PRS. And they're spearheading a project that they have entitled The Dangers of the Paranormal. And they actually have a website of the same name. And on it are PSA, public service announcements of some very, very prominent people in the field. And I just feel so passionate about the subject. And one thing in particular, it's funny timing that the show is today. Day before yesterday, I got some footage in an email from our friend Renee. And it's footage from Rhode Island News Station, and it's recent, that there were robberies going on at the school where we used to go.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Robberies of ghost hunters, which means that kids are thugging and they're going to the school where ghost hunters are known to go, and they're robbing the ghost hunters of their equipment,
Oh, gee.
their cell phones, their money, their identification. And you know, all this stuff, you know, it doesn't come cheap.
Right.
I'm so sad to hear that.
Yeah, it is.
So it's really, they're setting them up.
Right. And the police were finding things in the weeds like an axe. They found an axe,
Oh, wow.
a crowbar. So these kids mean business.
And, you know, and the ghost hunters, they're probably very young, and they're probably not there with permission anyway. They're sneaking in.
Absolutely. So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so most people think the dangers of the paranormal when you're out investigating spirits and other things, you know, even worse, that that's what you have to worry about. But I'll tell you, when I used to go there, my biggest fear was running into living, breathing beings on two
Yes,
legs.
yes.
And, you know, this is stuff that you don't think about because you're in the moment. You know, you have that adrenaline rush, you're going out to hunt spirits, and, you know, you're thinking your head is there. So it's not on the drug addicts, the transients, the homeless, or anybody in there looking to start trouble. So, yes, the dangers of the paranormal are, it's just like a plethora. Anything can be, you know. I mean, from dressing correctly to surveying the area before it turns dark. Nothing worse than getting a twisted ankle out in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking of, along the lines of abandoned buildings.
Yes.
You know, thinking of things falling on your head, nails sticking out, floors that are not sturdy.
It's rife.
that
I
sort of
mean, it's
thing.
just, and so and like I said, because a lot of times you're in the moment, you don't think, you don't look where you're stepping, and, you know, I've watched people who are looking through a camera and they're not looking at a low header, and
Oh, yes. You're
boom,
right.
you do one of
That-
these.
That
you know.
happens, yeah.
So all these things you have to be concerned about. So,
And that's very, very pertinent, the things you just said.
but that's the mundane stuff.
Yeah, one of the reasons to actually, when we do the Ghost Hunting 101 classes, we actually recommend that people at least bring a first aid kit along, especially if it's that sort of a
I agree.
field
a very good
investigation.
idea.
And someone who knows how to use it, hopefully.
Right, hopefully
I
trained
agree.
personnel too, yes.
And of course, cell phones. You know, I can't say enough
Yes,
of that.
yeah, contact with the outside world, which still you can't do in every part of the country.
You
It's
cannot.
cell phone free.
I've been in areas where mine hasn't worked.
Right,
you
yeah.
know, and you're losing that link, and it's like, oh, you know, wouldn't it be this be the night? You know,
Yes.
when I don't have bars. You know.
I remember Brian Hanwha was way out in Pennsylvania sometime, and all of a sudden he lost contact with everybody, and it does happen.
So you're out in the middle of nowhere and you spread apart. And,
Right.
You know, we used to bring walkies. Remember? I
Yep.
used to have
Oh, yeah.
4 walkie-talkies that I used
Yeah,
to
we
pass
still use them
around, and,
sometimes. When
You know,
we're
if you're going to be
larger.
spreading out.
Right.
But those are the mundane things, and then you know, you get into the other dangerous stuff. Well, you know, John knows about this. We have recently become victims ourselves. We found ourselves being clients because we inadvertently brought something home with us.
Oh,
and you
It
know, I'll tell
happens.
you, if it's something and it's not nice company, it can really wreak havoc on your life in many ways. You know, so these are things you have to think about. You have to know how to protect yourself, mundanely, spiritually, you know, physically, emotionally, and you have to know to do that before, during, and after. It's vital to
Absolutely.
your crew. It's vital to you. And then you have to also know what to look for in case somebody you're with or you yourself pick up an attachment. You have to know what to look for so you know that you have something and when it's time to call for help.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
which we found ourselves doing.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So,
Very
you
true.
know, I called you, Keith.
Yeah, that's right. So, John, you did bring some sound files with you.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we do want to get to them before we run out of time.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are very fast.
Okay.
And
You sort
there's
of,
10 of them.
Okay. Can you kind of set them up for us?
The first one
I mean, one at a time.
The first one is, it says, they're at peace. On the second one is one Fran was talking about earlier, about it answering before you say.
Yeah.
It says, an old guy says 1837, and then Fran says 1837. And then she talks about died of a ripe old age of 71.
Yeah.
On the third one, it sounds to be a little boy saying, come here, you. And the fourth one is,
They're all together?
they're
sound
really
effect.
fast.
Yeah.
That's the way I had to put them on
Okay,
the
so
CD.
we're not going to stop
Right,
between
they're
each one,
going
so
to
you
go
better
really fast. yes.
describe them all now.
The fourth one is Daddy's going to get you next. And,
One of the nice EVPs I picked up that night.
and
Yeah.
Fran ran across a gravestone another time. And what did the gravestone say?
It said Daddy's last chance or last chance dad. So I'm assuming after a while I said, well, maybe it wasn't that malevolent. Maybe it had something to do with that. But to hear Daddy's going to get you next said really sinisterly
Yeah.
is a little unnerving.
Right.
Number 5 would be Heather Goes to Heaven. That's one of my favorites. Number 6 is No Way.
Okay.
Number 7, She Can't Do Nothing, which
Okay.
is against Fran.
I was fiddling with the camera and yeah.
Okay.
Number 8, Time to Be Hung. Number 9 is one of my favorites, Nixon.
Wow.
Number 10, You're in Danger.
Okay,
And
well-
that's all of them.
Maybe
Okay.
we can get right to them.
Okay, let's try to get right to those sound clips then.
Control room, where's our sound
1837.
clips?
Rear rifle age of 71.
All right.
Man who molested his children. Let me see if I can get it going.
This looks like the old section.
We're gonna have a test. Does anybody here know who the President of the United States is?
Okay. We're back? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
They were fast.
Right. Interesting.
I would
Quite
like to
interesting.
be able to, you know, there was a couple in there, but
Would you like to talk
Yes,
about something?
please, if I could. The No Way was very interesting. It's my daughter Elizabeth, who's been kind of flexing her medium muscles, and she felt a presence, and she said there was a picture of the gentleman on the tombstone, and I said, so what do you think of the gentleman here? And she said, it's a man who molested his children, and the spirit came plain as day and said right out, no way.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So I thought that was really, that's like a direct
Yes,
You know.
right.
Interesting.
answer to
It didn't need any amplification whatsoever.
No.
Really? Is that clear? Yeah.
Most of these didn't need much filtering either, or any. John didn't have to play with them too much.
Are they all from different locations?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Okay. And speaking of filtering, now you're sort of an expert on EVP as far as cleaning them up and getting them ready for presentation or upload or whatever. Is there anything general? I mean, I know you can't go into too much depth. We don't have that much time, but is there anything general that sort of general advice on working with EVPs? Whereas, you know, cleaning them up, that sort of thing, using the sound editing programs?
Just try as many programs as you can, and try not to buy a lot of programs. They have the demos, and try as many as you can. It may take a long time, but I would try as many as I can, because over the years I found this program will do this something good for me. I choose this program, it does something better that doesn't do. And I'll end up with using 3 programs by the time I'm done on one EVP.
Oh, really?
Actually doing analyzing it.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Did you have any last questions, Sandra?
Actually, I did. As everyone knows, Keith, Carl, and I are former members of TAPS, and Fran is a former member of TAPS, and we have a lot of ex-Atlantic Paranormal Society members on the show, and we kind of like to get to some of the pre-Ghost Hunter adventures as much as we can, as much as we have time for. Is there anything that stands out in your mind that you'd like to...
So many. Oh, gosh. Most of them, Keith was my navigator on most of them, my right-hand guy. He was the one that read the directions while I drove. So
Co-pilot.
Yes. There was
Somebody's got to do it.
There was the case in Newport that stands out on the old nursing home that the young couple, their family had been so nice to buy for them for their wedding present. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Of Hearth and Home.
The big mansion, yes.
Absolutely,
Hearth and Home,
yeah,
yes.
and that was an amazing experience for me. Up in Stores was another great place, Stores, Connecticut.
Yeah.
That was great. I had so many interesting experiences back in the day, and all I could say is it was an honor and a pleasure and a privilege because I got to learn from and work with some of the very best, and that means I never had a chance to work with you, Sandra, unfortunately.
Well,
but
it will
you
happen.
You being his better half, it is almost the same as being there. But I mean you, Keith, and Carl in particular.
Thank
So,
you, Fran.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. You're a dear.
You're welcome. And it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
We'll certainly have you back
Please
because I
do,
know
because we
have
got so
many
much.
more stories and things we can cover about equipment. I'm sure you have a
Yes.
lot more
Oh, yes.
evidence to show as well.
Yes, I do.
In the form of visual as well. So.
I do.
All right, Sandra, would you say a little bit about our contact info?
I will do just that, but before I do, can we have your contact info? If people want to
Absolutely.
contact
Are we
Echoes,
allowed to get to say?
well, how about ways that you can be contacted directly? An email address?
John at Price Paranormal.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with
And
that.
if you want to contact,
If you go on our Price site and our Echo site, there is contact information.
okay, so Google Price and Echoes Paranormal, and if you want to contact us, it's the N.E.A.R case manager at inbox.com or ghostsarnear@cox.net, and we will believe you, and they will believe you.
That's right. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you
wonderful
very
having
much
you
for
on.
having
I
us
very
here.
much look forward to your next visit with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Take care.
This was
And
fun.
Thank you, studio audience, for being here. Great. Good night, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you again soon.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, that went well.
That was awesome.
And only...